Yusei Kikuchi looked absolutely unbelievable on the mound today. We'll go over that next on Locked On Blue Jays.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, today's game was better. It looked better. It was more promising. Don't get me wrong. It was against the Pirates, so that tells you something. But Yusei Kikuchi, an absolutely outstanding start for him this season. He went 2 innings with 3 strikeouts, 1 hit given up, and that is all. The guy looked electric. He looked like he was on top of all his pitches. He knew exactly what he needed to throw. Guys were swinging and missing. It was 100% what I wanted to see from this start from Yusei Kikuchi.
He came out again with confidence like he did the exact same last spring training. Something must have clicked in his last offseason of training. He looks great again this spring training. He's already sitting at 95 with his fastball. His location was on. His windup was great. He did the little Kikuchi strut off the mound after every one of those strikeouts. He already looks like he's in midseason form, and that's a great sign for Toronto Blue Jays fans. Being the only left-hander out of the starting rotation on this team, to see Yusei just balling on the mound again is music to my ears, and I'm so excited to see him dominate on the mound again this upcoming season.
Yeah, he did look outstanding, and I mean the whole time he was out there, I was hyping him up yesterday. I think I said I thought he was going to get 4 strikeouts. He got 3, so I missed the mark a little bit, but yeah, he had an outstanding start. The other guy I wanted to bring up was actually Chris Bassitt, who didn't look necessarily perfect, but I think for his first game of the year, I think he looked okay. He also went 2 innings, 1 hit, no strikeouts. It looked like he got a little bit into some trouble, but you know what? He found his way out of it. He's not the huge swing and miss guy with his fastball or anything like that. He's got a ton of pitches, and that's hard for a pitcher like that sometimes, where they have 6, 7 pitches that they could throw, and to pray to God that they're on top of every single one of those in their first outing is a little bit of an over ask, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Chris Bassitt's been doing it for such a long time, and he's even said it himself that he kind of takes it easy at the start of spring training. He's been doing it for a long enough time, and the good thing is spring training starts don't matter. He's in it for the long haul. He wants to be fresh when it comes down the stretch in September and October baseball. So his velo was sitting around 89 miles an hour today, which might look bad for Blue Jays fans. But again, Chris Bassitt always takes a long time to wrap up his pitches. The location of his pitches were a little bit off today, but again, it's his first spring training appearance. Fought out of some jams, didn't give up any earned runs, which is the biggest thing. For me, stat lines don't really matter. I just like seeing Chris Bassitt being able to throw his stuff, get some pitches in, not live ABs, and just get ready for the upcoming season.
Yeah, he looks really good. Again, we've said this. We're not overly concerned with how these spring training games go, as long as guys are, starting to make forward progression into this season of how they'll play. The other 2 guys I wanted to sort of just touch on a little bit in this pitching staff, not really go too in depth into because I don't think there's a lot to go off of, but that's Jordan Romano and Chad Green, both really, really good outings. Chad Green did give up a hit. Jordy went perfect with 1 strikeout. Chad also had 1 strikeout, did give up 1 hit, but both of them looked really good. Jordy looked fantastic today again, as usual and as you'd expect.
The Jordy grunts were being broadcast loud and proud today. It seemed like every fastball he was throwing, he was like he was serving in tennis. You heard him on the broadcast. Again, with Jordy, the velo isn't there yet, but he looked good. The fastball looked good. He was still setting up everyone like he was last season. High fastball, low and away with the slider. Coming in the 5th inning, which is a weird visual for me. I'm not used to seeing Jordan Romano come out in the middle of a ball game. But, I mean, it's nice to get him in different situations. Hopefully, we're never going to need him in that 5th inning spot. But obviously, nice to just see him getting the work in. Nice to see a bunch of, actually, MLB pitchers getting the work in this Monday. They had Yimi Garcia as well go. Chad Green, like you said. Jordan Romano. Tim Meza was in there as well. A bunch of MLB-ready pitchers. One thing that I saw, again, Henny Cabrera, I'm not really worried about the stat lines here, but Henny Cabrera has short hair now.
Yeah.
And same thing with Kevin Gausman. They both cut the hair. I'm missing it. I love when the pitchers are on the mound with their flocks just flowing in the wind. I love the mullet style. So I am upset that Henny also cut his hair. But hey, it's hot in Florida right now. I do get the short hair in spring training.
Yeah, it was weird to see almost when Cabrera came to the mound. I'm like, wait, who is that? And then, like, it sort of took me back quickly, and I'm like, oh my goodness. But yeah, it is a little different. Maybe it's a switch up for a lot of guys this season, and honestly, whatever. I mean, a lot of these guys just come into spring training having fun, whatever, and then they get to the season, they get into their mid-season form, and then I'm guessing we'll see the Gausman hair come back for sure. So
Yeah, I'm assuming that they're both going to grow it out as the season starts. Pitchers are pretty set in their ways, to say the least. They don't want to switch too many things up during the season. I'm assuming that whenever the calendar flips over and we get to opening day, everyone is going to be very self-conscious of their routines and doing the exact same things that they're always doing. Superstitious is the word I'm looking for. Pitchers are very superstitious. They don't like to switch everything up, and they have maybe weird things that they do before starts. But hey, if it's going to work for the Toronto Blue Jays, who are we to say anything negative about their routines before starts?
yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if you saw, but they've released their like promotional days or whatever, and it's one of them was a Gosman bobblehead that had like gum around his foot or whatever because he takes the piece of gum out every inning, right? And so just things like that, right? They're little quirks to all these pitchers that they have, and it's hilarious that the promotional staff noticed that and made something out of it. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, that's awesome for fans too. I know Jose Berrios has one of his Gold Glove. Bichette has one. I think there is two more other ones they have for bobblehead nights. I think that is closer to the middle of March. They're going to be handing those out for the Dunedin visitors. But yeah, it's just great to see a lot of MLB talent back in the lineup. Vladdy had his first at bats. He looked good. Bichette still killing the ball back up the middle, going opposite way. Love to see that from Bichette early in the season. Justin Turner had a hit today. A little bit of a misplay in center field. Again, not really looking at the stat lines too much this early. But one thing I did want to talk about that we didn't really talk about too much on Saturday is Bichette looks skinny. He looks like he slimmed down a ton. And we saw it on the base paths on Saturday. He snagged a base, and that was one thing we sort of briefly went over. So hopefully we can see Bichette along with many other players on this staff try to snag more bags, as the offense didn't come very easily last season. We can get runners from first to second into scoring position. Even though the Blue Jays were horrible hitting with scores or runners in scoring position last season, it is nice to get those opportunities and give everyone up and down the order a chance to hammer these guys in.
Yeah, and what you brought up about Bo, stealing that bag, I think it's just the mindset that's going to go into this year of trying to really score more runs. And already we've seen, I mean, it is only spring training, but it is a ridiculous amount of runs being scored in all of these games, especially from the Blue Jays. Like, yeah, the last two games we got beat, but at least we're scoring a ton of runs, right? And some of these pitchers aren't MLB ready pitchers. They're gonna give up more runs. They're gonna give up more hits. But to see us being able to drive in runs today, it's like, holy moly, I haven't seen this in a whole year of baseball, us scoring this kind of runs.
I feel like we've scored more runs in 3 games than it felt like we did in some months last season.
Yeah.
I think, what is that? We got 6, 12, and then another 8 today. So that's 26 in 3 games.
8, 12, 13.
We scored 13. Oh, yeah, we had 13 against the Phillies. What am I talking about? Yeah, so that is a ton of runs. That's almost 30. It is nice to see. That is partly due to, like you said, the talent just in the league right now. Obviously, there are single A, double A, triple A pitchers that aren't going to be seeing big league hitters. And as well as what I brought up earlier about guys like Chris Bassitt. Some guys aren't ramped up all the way yet. It is still early on. They're not really focused on the numbers necessarily with velo or the stat lines. They're just focused on executing their pitches, maybe having the movement that they like to see in some of their pitches. And a lot of guys like Alek Manoah is testing out that cutter. Bowden Francis is testing out a splitter. I believe there's a bunch of guys working on different things in spring training. And that's exactly what it's for. Find out what works, find out what doesn't work, and make those changes in spring training where it's not going to affect their outcome on the upcoming season.
Yeah, and one more guy I wanted to bring up, just who's having an unbelievable start to his spring training, is Brian Serven. And he has 8 total RBIs and is leading the league, spring training league in RBIs so far.
Yeah, he has more RBIs than Juan Soto, so we can say Brian Servant is actually better than Juan Soto. So the Blue Jays didn't even have to give up assets to get a guy that's better than Juan Soto. But no, realistically, just a guy having a great spring training, bases clearing double on Saturday, 5 RBI day today, had a home run, and then another double down the line in the eighth. This is a guy that Blue Jays fans might become a little bit more familiar with. Again, he probably would only serve as our third catcher because we do have Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen, and their spots aren't going anywhere any time too soon. Brian Servant again looked great. Not really an established hitter. Played a lot of single A and double A last season, only hitting around 200. So the offensive upside isn't really there to say the least throughout his career. But who knows? Maybe he's found something in the offseason like guys like Jose Berrios did, Kikuchi did uh, from previous seasons before. And it's just a storyline to watch. If he can be successful in spring training and put up big offensive numbers, why not have him at least make the opening day roster? Maybe put him on the 40 man and give him some more opportunities to produce runs.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a sort of an interesting takeaway. Is like we're looking for guys right now that could give us a little bit more offensive upside when need be. So yeah, it's just cool to look through these spring training stats, see how guys are doing, and sort of see who's in the pipeline, right? So, but there is one big topic. You sent this to me today, and I do want to go over it because I think it's very interesting news, and it's regarding Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So we're going to get right into that next.
Take care of all your vehicular maintenance needs with our partner, eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. I know I've told the story on the podcast before, but I used to be the guy. I had got my license first in my grade. So I had this big mom van. I used to drive around all the boys always. And same thing, I had some rust, maybe not some great driving from over the years. My mom used it. It was a hockey vehicle. So a lot of damage to the back bumper and stuff like that throughout the years. With eBay Motors, I was able to keep that mom van on the road for a little longer and ride with my boys around to different events. Like going to their houses, just driving around at lunch. Because again, in our town, there wasn't a lot to do. So any time that we could just get away from school, kind of just get up to some not so good things, it was a fun time to do in my Pontiac, Montana. So keep your ride or die alive with ebaymotors.com and go to ebaymotors.com to keep your ride or die alive. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers.
So yeah, Carter, I'm going to hand it off to you since you sent me this little bit of an article. You read it. I thought it was interesting. I sort of went over it when you sent it to me sort of this afternoon, and I thought it was a really, really interesting read. And I think it could bring up some topics of conversation here for us.
Yeah, absolutely. With some more Vladimir Guerrero Jr. news. This was just before the start of spring training, and they were talking about his arbitration process and just kind of like how the offseason was, what he was doing in the offseason to improve and get better in the 2024 season. So, one thing he was asked, and it was after a workout on the Thursday just before, they were asking how he was feeling, just pretty much what his plans were for the season. And he said, since I got here, since the doors open to the clubhouse, you can see a different vibe. Things are getting better everywhere. All the things that you talk about in the offseason with your teammates, stuff like that, things you really want to get better at, it's paying off, and I can see the results right now. So that's just a general outlook on how Vladdy kind of viewed this offseason, how he views the people in the clubhouse. Got good things from him so far. It looks like everyone took this offseason pretty seriously after that disappointing feat in the playoffs last season. And it looks like they're all ready to jump over the hump here and hopefully have some more success in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know what? He sort of hits the nail on the head in the sense of coming ready to play. And I think this year there was a big emphasis on everybody coming ready to play, not trying to find yourself partway through the season, not taking the offseason lightly. And already it looks like some of these guys have done that. They look like they're in better shape. They look like they're more ready. They're looking more like a team. It's really good to see.
Another thing he commented on was that arbitration process. I think some of the interviewers were kind of looking for a storyline here. They wanted him to say something negative about the team, but Guerrero responded pretty well to this. and he maturely brushed off what could have been a damaging experience, according to articles. He says, "You understand you're going into a hearing and they're trying to go their way. I'm going to try to go my own way. It's part of it," he said. "It's a learning experience. It's all good. No hard feelings for anyone." So that's another great thing to hear in terms of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's always a problem that we have with these arbitration experiences, is because it's literally Vladdy versus the team. Vladdy's advocating for why he deserves more money, and the Blue Jays are bringing up some instances where they think Vladdy could improve and why he's not deserving of the money. So it's just nice to see that there are no hardships for Vladdy and this team. There's nothing that's going to impact him and his success for the Blue Jays, and he's fully in for the 2024 season of Blue Jays baseball.
Yeah, and that's great to see that he has that approach to this, right? Where there isn't any hard feelings, because very easily a player can bring that in to the season and have that affect them, for the rest of the year. He's got that little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Thank goodness he's come to the understanding, and the team's come to the understanding. They've probably talked about this. This isn't probably, brushed under the rug. It's probably something they've had a conversation about, and that they can both come there happy and ready to actually work and win and hopefully just be back to the team game.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Vladdy, it seems like he's getting this from, he realizes it is a business perspective here. It's nothing personal. And that's the biggest thing. Vladdy is being very professional about this. He understands that the organization has no ill will against him. It's just a business thing. For businesses to succeed, they have to limit their expenses for the business, and they have to try to get people and commodities for as cheap as possible. So with Vladdy, if he didn't have a great season last year, the Blue Jays were going to try to kind of get a little bit more of a bargain on him. And it's just nice to see that it was professional from both standpoints on the situation.
Yeah, no arguing with you there. The team has to do what they think is right, and they want to try to save money, and maybe so that they can spend that money elsewhere as well, right? So you can't fault them for trying to do that, but then also you can't fault Vladdy for trying to go get what he's worth, right?
Well, and they also had some talks about an extension. They were asking him how he felt about staying in Toronto long term and if he was open to it. And he says, "I've been here for 9 years, all my career here. I love it here. I'm very open, willing to keep talking about negotiations," said Guerrero. "Of course, I would love to stay here, but it's all business. I will let my representatives work on that." And that is another mature statement from Vladdy. I'm glad that he's not really taking these contract talks too much at face value. He's just excited to play baseball. He's excited to have that arbitration contract out of the way. And we see how important this is with guys like Bichette. We inked him up to a 3-year arbitration deal. He's in the second year of that. That's something we don't have to deal with this offseason. And Bichette can just focus on baseball. And I think that's just where Vladdy wants to be at as well.
Yeah, and you know what? That's it. It's such a good way to look at that, in the sense of um, Vlad. Most of these baseball players just want to go out and play baseball. They're not overly worried about this money stuff. That's why they have a team of people looking after this, right? So I don't think that this is something that's huge, in Vlad's head right now. I think he just wants to get out there. He wants to prove it to himself, the team, the fans, the league, that he is an elite player in this league.
Oh, and he's just going to let his play do the talking. If Vladdy can have a bounce back season, he's going to get paid, and he's going to get paid a lot. And he knows that. So there's no point of arguing about overspilled milk right now when nothing has even happened yet. The season hasn't even started. Vladdy's got to put his money where his mouth is, and he's got to show that he is an MVP caliber player. He's not going to get paid big league money if he's not going to play in this league like a superstar. And it is nice to see that Vladdy is open to staying in Toronto. Not a lot of professional baseball players are, just with the Canadian taxes. Maybe the climate, it is kind of cold here at some times. So it's nice to see that Vladdy would be open to staying with Toronto, as we haven't really heard anything along those lines with Bichette. Obviously, Vladdy is a part, is dual citizenship. He is part Canadian. So it's nice that he is embracing his background a little bit. And I would love to have Vladdy stay here for an extended period of time with the Toronto Blue Jays, especially if he can have a bounce back season closer to his 2021 season.
Yeah, and it is a big part of his life, right? Like, his dad spent so much time here as well, and probably as a kid he spent so much time here. So it's sort of cool. It's one of those things that when we got Vlad originally, it was so cool to see that sort of trickle down effect, obviously from his dad. But yeah, it reinsures fans that he wants to play here, and he wants to do what he can to make a difference with this group. That's the biggest part, with this team. Because, yeah, Vlad could go play for somewhere else, sign for money, and blah, 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 right? It's over. But it sounds like this is where he wants to win, which is huge.
he could go sign with the Dodgers super team and maybe win a World Series, maybe not. That's not the same as a guy that's seen it from being built from the ground up. He's been in the system for a long time. He has played a lot of years with guys like Bichette, Danny Jansen, Tim Meza, Cavan Biggio. There's so many guys that he's known for such a long time in his career that the victory would taste so much more sweet if it is with the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think he knows that. So just moving into one more thing I wanted to talk about is Jose Berrios. There was actually questions in a report asking him about the playoff situation where he got removed, in our opinions, too early. To pretty much every baseball fan out there, they're like, why is this guy being removed? So it's actually came out that the Blue Jays staff did apologize to Jose Berrios for pulling him early. And they asked him, what did they apologize for? And this is a statement from Jose Berrios. He says something like, not just me, but what the players were feeling. They just didn't know. Now we let them know how we feel about the same situations, decisions. It's more communication. We have already been working on that. So he didn't really say much in that statement, kind of just beating around the bush. It does sound like there is some more communication going on internally. So hopefully this has an impact on decisions moving forward. And hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays staff can just use their goddamn eyes and just say, hey, this guy is pitching good. No need to remove him if he's having one of the best starts he's had all season. Screw the analytics if this guy's dealing. And hopefully the players might have a little bit more of a say in some of the analytical decisions coming up for this upcoming season.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this. Obviously, Jose Berrios doesn't want to throw John Schneider or any of the managerial team, under the bus. So obviously, he's not going to comment like anything crazy. But I think it's good that he addressed that and that he is willing to say that he knows he should have been kept in that game. And I think that's a big thing, right? The players have to let the managed team know when something's upsetting them. And obviously, this is something that affects the entire group because they all have, like you said, a pair of eyes in their skull. So just like the fans, these players get just as frustrated with stuff like this as we do. So I think it's very good to see that there might be an extra level of communication between the players, the coach, and the management. I think that's very promising looking forward to this season.
Well, when you look at a situation like this, and John Schneider has shown multiple times that in situations where players are dealing, where players want to control the game, because especially as a pitcher, if you leave three players on the bases, you're responsible for them, and you want to be responsible for if they score or if they don't. And if you keep seeing these situations where John Schneider's not trusting his guys and pulling them at weird times, that could impact trust within the dugout. He's going to lose the clubhouse like that. If you have a guy that's absolutely dealing and pouring his heart out for the team and he gets pulled for no apparent reason, that's not gonna let him feel good in the dugout, and it's not gonna make him have trust in his manager or his team for that matter.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about that trust, and we know that John Schneider has a good relationship with his players right now. But too many more of moves like this, it slowly starts to break down that trust, and that's not something you want to see. That if the trust is there with the manager and you trust in the decisions he's going to make throughout the ball game, that takes a lot of the mental part of the game out of it for you, right? You could just go out there and play. You don't have to think about those things. But when it's in the back of your head, like, am I going to get pulled for some weird reason, even though I'm having one of the best games of the year?
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, it is out of the players' hands. They don't have a decision in if they're playing, when they're pulled, when they start, all these situations. They're kind of just thrown in there to the team's best interest and how they can help the team the best, which is good for the Blue Jays. But at the same time, you do have to adhere to some people's personalities. And if they're dealing, then why pull them? And that should be a conversation that they should have throughout the season and hopefully before starts as well. Just you want to see the communication between the managers and the players be productive. And you don't want anyone having negative feelings towards anyone else, just to keep the whole unit cohesive throughout the season. You don't want anyone having ill feelings towards each other. So just before we move on to our next segment, I wanted to shout out our 24/7 Locked On streaming channel. As the spring training moves on, the NHL and NBA are getting close to the playoffs. College sports are always going on. There's a bunch of women's sports going on as well. Any sports content you guys want to digest or just view, go over to the 24/7 Locked On Sports Today streaming channel and subscribe to our first ever 24/7 streaming channel.
We will get right into previewing tomorrow's game, as there is a big starter opening up for tomorrow's game. So we'll check that out next. Today's Episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. As I've been saying, I've sort of been keeping you guys up to date on my betting history. And yesterday, I won 2 NHL bets because of FanDuel's pre made parlays that I've been rolling with, and they seem to be working. Every time I go away from them, I lose. Every time I stick with them, I win. So take that with what you will, but I'm going to stick on them hard. Just visit fanduel.com/locked on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So we're going to preview tomorrow's action, Blue Jays versus the Tigers. And Carter, the big man, is back on the mound.
Yeah, it looks like we got Alek Manoah coming back tomorrow. Probably the biggest start of spring training up to this point, and maybe the biggest start of the whole season for Alek Manoah and a confidence perspective for him. A guy that had a horrible season last year. Again, we're not too much into the stat lines here, but I think if anyone we're going to be kind of like obsessing over his stat line, it's going to be Alek Manoah, just based off the uncertainty we're getting into the season with. It looks like he added his cutter as well. Let's see if we can see that. It might help him out with that. I know with his slider and his fastball, it's got similar movement. And there is kind of a gap between those two pitches. His fastball only moves a couple inches, where his slider is breaking 6 to 12 inches. If he can get that cutter located and he can get that cutter moving the way he wants it to, that fills in that void between his slider and his fastball. So it will be harder for hitters at the plate to see what pitch he is throwing, and just his command in general. That was one of Alek Manoah's biggest things last year. He wasn't locating pitches. He was walking the house. It's hard to win baseball games if you're giving up so many free passes to MLB ready hitters. So that is one thing that I'm going to be watching for Alek Manoah, is how can he use his cutter and how can he locate pitches for his first spring training start.
Yeah, the location thing is huge for him. As we've seen, as you've said, he's struggled with that. The other thing that I'm going to be looking for is how quick he is up on the mound. Having that now, the thought of having that pitch clock in there. I'm going to see if he's made any adjustments, if he's moving a little bit quicker on the mound, if he's getting set a little bit quicker on the mound. Little things like that that'll give you some sort of clues into how this season might play out for him.
Well, and that was one of his biggest problems in 2022, even. He was the 5th slowest player to the mound, and we saw that in 2023. He almost looked tired up there at some points. The numbers looked horrible. So maybe it's just something with his progression in his set, when it's in his set, when he goes and delivers to the mount or to the plate. Maybe he gets set quicker, like you said. Maybe it's something to do with the footwork. He's got the timing down. He doesn't, obviously, you only have those 20, 25 seconds, depending if there's runners on, or if there are no runners on base. It's tough for Alek Manoah. He has lost a lot of weight. He has been slow to the mound previously, but that's something you got to fix. You got to adapt with the changing game of baseball, as it seems to change every year. More runners are getting on base. There's more people scoring. MLB is trending in a direction with more runs being given up. So Alek Manoah is sort of against the odds here, but every other pitcher in the league is doing it. Hopefully we can see an Alek Manoah bounce back season. I know we're on board. He's just got to show us, and it's going to be huge for get the fans back in his corner if he can have a good performance here on his first start of spring training.
Yeah, no, I know. I know it'll sort of ease some fans' mind if they can see Alek Manoah have a good first outing today or tomorrow. Sorry, or I guess today. Whatever, either one. Recording this on Monday night, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, like we've talked about a lot, when Alek Manoah, when Vladdy, when Bo are all hot and all pitching, playing, fielding well, it really adds sort of an extra dimension to this team. Even if it's just the confidence surrounding the group, it sort of lifts everybody else up. So hopefully we can see Manoah pitch well. That's going to be where I'm keeping my eye on tomorrow's game. How many innings do you think he's going to get tomorrow?
I think they're only going to give him 2, but this is going to be the biggest opportunity for Blue Jays fans to either overreact about him being back or overreact about him being gone and just being useless again this season. Maybe think thoughts of trades. There's going to be an insane amount of overreactions no matter which way he pitches. And I think as well, I don't think there's a middle ground for Alek Manoah. I either see him going 2 scoreless, or he's going to give up 4 runs and walk 4 batters. It's just, I don't think there's going to be an in-between for this guy. So this is going to be his opportunity to win over Blue Jays fans for this upcoming season.
I can't wait for this game. This is sort of one of the ones that I had circled on the calendar, ready to watch. So I'll be tuned and dialed right into this. I hope you guys will be as well. Tune in tomorrow. We'll break it all down for you guys. And we've got some other cool content coming on Thursday as well. Sort of some look back at some of the things happening, in the midst of the spring training and all the Blue Jays stuff. There's some widespread MLB stuff that's been going on that we got to talk about as well. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.